back everyone. So today we'll be looking at how we can export the route once we're happy with it to a GPS device, and then so it can be used anywhere on the field. So if you've got your GPS watch or your GPS tracker, let's see how that works. So we go back to our project that we're doing. We had our track that we were happy with. From memory here is they weren't quite linked up. The easiest way I found is what we're going to do is we're going to export to create all the vertices, and then we're going to create one line. The reason I'm going to create one line out of these two lines is because I've been having trouble when I export just this one file to GPS, is it only takes the first part. So to do that is we're going to create a copy first. So I'm going to go over to my track over here, right click it and click duplicate layer. So now we're working on a copy of the layer and not actually the layer itself, so we can see it here. The first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to go up to the vector tab, and I want to extract the vertices. We're going to go to geometry tools, extract vertices. So I'm going to want to extract the vertices out of the track copy. I'm just going to create a default layer, so we don't actually need to keep this, so it's going to create a temporary file. And we click run. Cool. So now we can see that we've got all the vertices here that have been created. The next one, what we need to do now is we need to create a new track that doesn't have, where's the hole gone? This hole in it here. So we need to create a new track that doesn't have this hole in it, and one just continuous path. So if we, from memory here, if we right click and click open attribute table, we did have two objects earlier. That's because I've been playing around with it. Have we still got two objects here, or I've just broken everything? So we did have two objects. We had IDs 1 and ID 2. I've been playing around with it, trying to get things to work. So from these vertices, what we can do is we can get the processing up here, and we can click the toolbox. So this is going to give us access to a bunch of different tools. And if we click in here, points to path, we can see we've got this vector creation here, and there's a points to path object, points to path tool. So I'm going to double left click on that. So what points do I want to use? I want to use my vertices that I've just created. I want to order them by my vertex index. This is just to ensure that we start up in the top here, and as we click through, we're going to get them in the right order. Maybe you can use like an ID or something like that, as if you didn't do it correctly. So like if you did, maybe you did like click, 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 and that was number 1. Then you did click, 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 that was number 3. And then click, 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 that was number 2, for example. Sorry, you did click, 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 that was number 1. Click, 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 that was number 2. Then click, 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 that was number 3. Is maybe you could reuse a different field to order them correctly. But I'm just going to assume that that's already working here. So I want to order them by vertex index. I don't want to group them. I don't want to give them dates. I'm just going to create a temporary layer as my output. And we just click run. So now I can see that it's created this paths object for me. And if I right click that and go to properties again, I can make it wider, and I can see I've got one path now that does my whole track. And if I go to the attribute table, I can see I've just got one object. So now we've just got this one path. Is what I'm going to do is I want to export it as a GPS. So I'm going to right click on it and click export save feature as. Here we choose the GPS exchange format, so GPX here. I'm going to give it a file name. So we can see here I've been testing stuff earlier, so I'm just going to call this paths track for export. Save that. We need to make sure in here I've been the tools I've been using, it won't work unless it's in the WGS84 default format, so we need to make sure to change that. We now have a choice here of either using the GPS extensions, so this allows it to add in the fields, or we can just switch off the fields. So I'm going to make sure everything works, switching off the fields and adding that extensions in. And I don't want to add it back to my file, to my map, so I can just click OK. And we can see here the layer has been exported to my desktop. I now go over to my Garmin tool. Sorry, just get rid of all that. And so I went over here and did training courses, and I can just import a new GPX file here. So if I click browse, and then it's track for export, and then I open this guy up, I can click started. This case here it's just a hiking tool, and we can see we've got our GPX re-imported back in. Then you just save your course as you would normally do, and send it to your device as normal. So I hope this has been useful for setting up on how to create a track using GIS tools, visualizing the profiles, make sure you're not going too steep or not steep enough, calculating the distances. You could also use that between the distances and the profile to estimate how long each stage should take. And then we looked at how to export it finally here to your GPS device to use it on the in the field. That's all. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.